Hello, everybody. My name is Kevin McDonald, host and creator of Positive Talk Radio and My Independence Report. You know, I often talk about the experiences that we have in life, both good and bad, add up to the person and the people who we are. And I have such an experience that I want to tell you about, and one of the reasons why I'm not really interested in fireworks or the 4th of July. I love what it means, but the celebrations and also the loud noises that accompany it. When I was 24, I was dating a gal who later would become my wife, and her brother, his name was Bruce, who was married to Sandy, and she had a brother named Danny. Well, on the 4th of July, in the middle of the afternoon, Bruce called to say that Danny had gone missing. They had a note that said, "I'm going to go out with a bang," and they were not sure what that meant, but they knew that he and his wife were having problems, and he had 3 children at the time, so everybody was very concerned. And Bruce asked me if I would go with him to go search for him. Turns out that they had found his car on a rural road that had lots of hills and brush and bushes and a logging road nearby it. And there were probably 10 or 15 cars there at the time, and we met his brothers and his sister and his family and friends, and they were very, very concerned for his well-being. And so we decided to break up into teams and go begin our search for him. And Bruce and I became a team, and we started walking up this road, the logging road it was, and we wanted to see if we could find him and to see if he was maybe just playing hide and seek or something along those lines. And so we started walking up this road, found nothing, not a peep from anything. And so we decided that we would turn around and go back the other way. And we started walking down the road, and we passed the cars. And to give you a sense of the landscape, the road was kind of cut out of the hills, and there was a hill going up to one side and a hill going up to the other side, and there was a ditch by the road. And so we started walking along this road, and I noticed that there was a piece of foliage or some foliage that had been ruffled, and it looked like somebody had maybe passed by that way. And we had all been through those areas, and so I didn't know if it was somebody or if somebody was searching and they'd been that way. And I told Bruce, "Hey, see that? Let's go and look up this way." So his brother at the other end was at the top of this hill. This hill was about 500 feet tall, and they were up top because there was a logging road up there as well, and so they were looking up in that direction. And so I said to Bruce, "I know, let's start walking towards where they are, and we'll walk up the hill, and we'll meet them up there, and we'll see what we find." And he said, "That's a good idea." So we started walking up the hill, and we got and by this time it's getting dark. It's getting very dark. And so because there were no lights and there was no street light or any of that, it was it got very dark very quickly. So we started walking up the hill. We had flashlights with us, and then we got probably about 30 yards up the hill, and I heard and saw a loud bang followed by a flash. I didn't know what that was. I thought maybe it was fireworks that somebody had dropped, or there was something. We each had a flare. We checked ours and they were fine. And so we started walking towards the flash. We got about 10 or 15 feet farther up, and I saw a pair of shoes and then a pair of legs, and I saw the gun butt between this person's legs. Now, I'd been told that all he had was a handgun and that there was no rifle that he had. And so I assumed that when we got up north to him, that was him lying on the ground, wasn't moving. I saw the gun butt between his legs. I assumed it was a pistol. But when I got up to him to roll him over, and he was not responsive in any way, and it turned out to be a 30-30. Now, a 30-30 is a powerful rifle. And as my eyes went from the rifle between his legs and up towards his head, I noticed that his head was gone. He had taken the gun and he had put it underneath his chin and pulled the trigger. Now, he had been in that place, and we could see that the grass and the foliage around him was very tapped down. So he was there for quite some time, and he was sitting there watching everyone searching for him, calling out his name. crying, hoping that they could find him. When we got to the body, I yelled, "Medic!" And in those days, you see, this was in the early 80s. There were no cell phones. So one of the guys jumped in his car and sped to the nearest convenience store, which is where they would find a payphone. Now, a payphone used to be something that you put a quarter in, and it started with a dime, but then it became a quarter, and then you could call people. So they called emergency help. During this time, when I said medic, and I realized that his head was gone and he was no longer with us, his brother, who was at the top of the hill, heard me cry medic. He wanted to come down to find out what was going on, and I said, "Don't come down here. No, you did stay up there." And his friend, I called the friend's name, and I said, "You need to make sure he doesn't come down here," because he just didn't need to see that. A little time went by, and we stayed by Danny, and the medics came, and they rushed up, and I said, "Take your time, guys. Don't hurt yourself. There's no reason." And they came, and then they determined that he had indeed taken his own life, and that his head was gone, basically. And so then the police came, and so Bruce and I sat in the police cruiser and told our story of how Danny had met his demise, and that it was his gun, and that he'd had troubles with his wife and stuff. And then everybody slowly, the medics took obviously a body bag, and then they loaded Danny into the ambulance and took him away. And the next day, so I go home and I tell my girlfriend at the time that what had happened and what a horrific story it was. And then the next day, I went to their house where the whole family was there. There were probably 25, 30 people. And we told our story again a little bit. And the grandfather called me over to him and he said, "I want to thank you. I want to thank you for being there for him and being there for my family." And I said, "I'm so sorry that Danny's no longer with us." And he said, "So are we." And the purpose of me telling this story is actually twofold. Number one, I'll never own a gun again, or ever. I never have owned a gun. I never will own a gun. I've seen what a gun can do to somebody. And if he hadn't had those weapons, perhaps, just perhaps, he would have figured out a way to live without doing what he did. But he wasn't able to get that done. And also what I learned from that experience was he did not think anybody loved him anymore. He did not know how many people were devastated. His family, his friends, they were all devastated, and they all felt like they didn't do enough to save him. That story and the events of that day and the subsequent day led to more experiences, including Bruce and his wife, Sandy, that I will go into at another time. But I just wanted everyone to know, don't think about ending it all when you have the opportunity and the ability. People love you. It may not seem like it at the time, but people genuinely love you. And I feel badly that I was the one who walked up on him. To this day, I don't know if he had been left alone, if he just sat there and then got cold and then came home. I don't know the answer to that, never will. One day I'll meet Danny again, and he's going to say that was the biggest mistake of my life. So, just a story, but it's true. And it has resonance with me, and I hope it does with you as well. We need to take care of each other. Be kind to each other. Understand when each other are going through negativity, hate, division, and fear. So I would love for you to share this with other people and to tell them your life matters. It's important. My name is Kevin McDonald, and you've been listening to Positive Talk and My Independence Report. Have a great day, everybody.